This is Olin Meadows with Austin Entertainment Weekly, and today I am speaking with the amazingly talented and beyond hilarious Miss Jeanne Robertson.
Oh my gosh, pressure is on. I have to say something funny right away.
Well,
Thank you.
you recently hit over 21 million YouTube views on your videos. Tell
It's
me about
hilarious.
that.
Well, I've been a professional speaker for more than 50 years, been in your area many times for conventions and meetings. But a few years ago, we put a clip up on YouTube, and the little boy across the street came banging on the door and said, Miss Robinson, stay in the house. Mama says you're viral. And it had gone all over the country before we knew what it hit. So we've gone viral several times, and because of that, somebody started dubbing me Grandma Goes Viral, and they even said, does that hurt your feelings? I said, are you kidding me? I love it. I'll say it myself. I'm 71. Grandma has gone viral. So because of that, we're doing theater shows, and that's why I'll be in the Austin area next week.
Well, we are so excited to have you at the Long Center here, which is a beautiful, beautiful space. So, what should our listeners and viewers expect with your show next
Well,
week?
I'm a humorist, not a comedian. The material is a little longer, not one-liners so much, leads to a point, crafted stories, clever, we would hope, and I write my own material. And what I want them to do is to sit there and think, I'll be darned, the same thing happened to me, or a similar thing, because I'm just telling the things that I see. I really could not tell jokes. I've never told jokes. I've done this a long time. I've just looked and watched people, and when you do that, then they can usually say, oh my. Now, barefooted with my hair mashed down, I was 6'2" at 13. So even if I tell a story about that, and someone is very short, we've lived through the same thing. You know, the
Yes.
comments, the funny things that people say and do, and how you turn it into an advantage. We also like to say you can bring your mama, your grandmama, your teenagers, and everybody can just ride on home without being embarrassed or explaining everything.
That is absolutely so true. I have to tell you, one of my favorite memories of hearing one of your hilarious stories was me and my dad and my stepmother were in the car driving from Austin to Kerrville to go to a funeral for my stepmother's ex-husband, my stepsister's father,
Okay.
which does not sound very funny. But
Well,
we
I think that's so typical.
we were listening to your YouTube videos in the car, and we had just recently discovered you, and we came across your story about how when people pass, and you have to put your head down,
Oh, yeah.
that when people pass, you make them your 7-Up pound cake. And we were laughing so hard. So every moment at the funeral, when someone would say, you know, Bob has passed, my dad, my stepmother, and I would all look at each other and just put our head down.
Well, it's the truth. We all shake our head. We say, whether we've ever even heard of them before.
Right.
Somebody sitting next to you on the plane can be going, oh, I'm so sorry. My sister died in 1941, and both of us say, oh, I'm so sorry. And I have another story that's true in our family, and if you ask around with your family, you know, they'll tell you. We buried a person 3 times in 50 years in 3 different places. Because the widow just couldn't get him where she wanted him. And and every time, this is Texas written all over it, and it's North Carolina and the South. It was in Mississippi, and every time they bury him, people would come and bring potato salad. I mean, it was just hilarious and true. I was in Auburn and for a speech, Alabama, and a lot of family people came around from Alabama. And as we sat there, one of them said, I'm surprised you never have told about us burying Daddy in 50 years, 3 different times in 3 different places. Well, my antenna just go up, of course. And that's true life. It's just true life. That's what happens.
Absolutely. We had such a tickle at that. So, well, in all of your journeys and stuff, and I'm sure we'll hear some stories about your touring and things across the country next week, but where has been your favorite place to get to perform or speak in all of your years of touring?
Well, 51 years of touring as a professional speaker, and I'm past president of the National Speakers Association. You know, we have a lot of members in Texas and so forth. And what happened when I went viral, people came to me from Nashville and said, we think you can sell tickets. We think your name has enough to, and I was thinking, who? I don't believe it. But they did, and that's what's happened. Now, when you go into a theater town, you go in and do your show an hour and a half and so forth. You don't always get the flavor, and unless I have time to walk around the city of what's happening. But when you speak it at annual banquets in a small town, those are the best things because that's where the funny things happen that you can get your material. The year I was Miss North Carolina, I used to say, I'd rather go to the county fair than Charlotte. And they'd say, why not? Because there's just more funny stuff happening at the county fair. Charlotte has everybody coming in. Not the county fair, they get excited. And that's why, this is kind of interesting. My number one state to speak in is, of course, North Carolina, where I live. Number two is Texas. It's just amazing.
It's great.
I go to Texas all the time, and you have so many great cities and theaters, and you have a lot of people who listen to me on Sirius XM radio, and they'll drive great distances to come and see you out in West Texas. And so it's just they're kind of down-home people like I am. We talk alike. We both say I competed in the Miss America pageant. And so I'm looking forward to being back in Austin. They've been great. I've spoken at many conventions there. I've had one show there 3 years ago. So I won't come back with the same material as you came to that show. Have you seen Don't Bungee Jump Naked?
Yes, I love that video.
My husband, left brain, is 77. I am 71, and not long ago, the woman is trying to tell us in Canada that what we should do is bungee jump. Not just bungee jump, but bungee jump naked. Now, if you can't see the humor in this, it was just, my husband said, I can't do that. My teeth will fall out. I mean, it's just all the true stuff that happens is by far the best stuff that's happened.
Well, I have to tell you, my mother and her husband live in the Houston area, and a couple years ago, they went on a second honeymoon to Galveston, and they went to the Galvez Theater there, and my mother comes back and she calls me and she says, Olin, we saw the best show, the funniest lady ever. I cannot remember her name, but she was so tall and she wore the prettiest suit and she was the funniest person I ever saw. She goes, and I liked her so much because she never said a dirty word.
No, I love it when the kids come in and when they come up afterwards, I'll say, did you notice no bad words?
That's...
And they're amazed that you can still be very funny without it. It works. Yesterday, somebody said, okay, Jeannie, what are you going to find funny on Election Day? Because I'm on Facebook, and I say, we are not discussing politics. We are not going there. This is a funny page. And the truth is, I have a friend, and she and I, at every election, sees who can get the most Emory boards. And of course, the politician's name's on it, but who cares? And may I have another? You go to the next person. I'd love one of those every boards. Then we call each other when we get back from voting to see who has the most. And so immediately when I posted that yesterday, people started writing and said, I feel cheated. We don't get those. Do you get them in Texas?
We don't get Emory boards. At least I haven't.
Oh, in North Carolina, the people, you can't get but so many feet within the voting polls. But then everybody is sitting out there handing out pieces of paper about their candidates, this, that, and the other. And apparently Emory boards with your name on it are real cheap. And everybody is giving out Emory boards. And you just get these little Emory boards, you get enough to last till the next election if you're smart. And so next time I'm going to have a competition to see who can get the most Emory boards. But I found out not everybody does that. We do that in North Carolina.
Well, I'm going to have to move to North Carolina. My nails need some trimming.
It's worth it. It's worth it. I'll get you some and send them to you. It doesn't matter.
Apparently they have enough of them.
Yes. Well, I started speaking in the 60s, and I talked about being I was a humorist, and I started talking about being a 6'2" basketball player in the Miss America pageant. And then, as each decade is gone, you don't want to be still talking about things that happened 40 and 50 years ago. You might tell one story from it, but no. And a few years ago, I referred to my great husband. His name is Jerry, but I referred to him on stage as Left Brain.
Mm-hmm.
And the reaction from the audience was instantaneous. It's not male bashing because there's so many women who we call them clueless. They are left brain. It's not that it's wrong. It's just that
it's a different way of thinking.
It's different. Left brain people want things in order. Right brain people hear the word order and we think food. And that's just absolutely two different ways of thinking. And people identify with it. And I talk about laughing but include the younger people too, saying it's coming to you. So the true life things are, another good person at that was, or still is, Bill Cosby, Bob Newhart, older,
Mm-hmm.
for your younger crowd. But, if they talked about teaching somebody to drive, you've been there, you've done that. I mean, you can just say,
Yep.
He was a fly in my car when we did this. So it's fun to tell those stories. And another quite exciting thing, as long as I'm getting serious here, is that I've always heard, and you have too, you can't take it with you.
Yes.
And they're talking about money, of course, and possessions, but if you don't record your stories or pass them down through your family or tell them a lot, you do take them with you.
Yep.
And people come up after the shows and they're in the older bracket and they say, we have hilarious family stories. And I said, you must tell them to the younger people so they can pass on. And, they'll think it's funny and they'll record them and do something like. All I'm doing is getting up and telling about what I see every day.
And that is where you get some of the best stories. I mean, some of your stories that I love is the trip to the blue waters of Hawaii with your assistant, and the one about, of course, going to don't send a man to the grocery store is so funny. But
Don't go to Vegas without
don't go to Vegas without Baptist, and then the one about going whitewater rafting with the Baptist, and finally they say, "Okay, we'll take some wine." Oh man. That's got my family written all over it.
Yeah, my bestest friend who went with me to Vegas said, "Well, I'll go, but I won't gamble because you can, you're Methodist, but I'm a Baptist. We don't gamble." And of course, all I could think of was, have they told all of them? Because I know they're in their casino. But finally, I got her in there, and I don't tell. I just don't tell. I don't do it. And then she wanted to pull the lever. And we hit the jackpot. And it was one of my favorite lines in all my speeches. Norma Rose sat down at the slot machine, a good Southern Baptist, and within an hour jumped up on Episcopalian.
Yes, ma'am.
I love that. You can tell I like my own stories. I'll say lies just out of the blue when something happens on an airplane. People think I'm nuts.
Well, I have to tell you, we are so looking forward to your concert next Friday night at the Long Center here in Austin. I'm going to have my mama, my daddy, my Baptist grandma, and my aunt all there with me. We are so excited. Is there any?
As we say in the South, a picture.
Yes, we will. Absolutely.
That might be a hangover from speaking, but you can tell your listeners or the people who watch the iPad or listen to the iPad, I should say. No, it's a pod, isn't it?
I think it is.
iPad's that thing I type on. Okay, I'm out in the lobby before the show and afterwards. You always did that as a professional speaker. You would go in and meet your audience. And so I started doing it at the theater shows because it just seemed natural. And people would say, "I'm bringing Meemaw. She wants to know if she's going to meet you." And I'd say, "Absolutely, bring them on." So be aware that I do that, and we take some pictures, and kids like that too.
That's wonderful. That's such a gift to your audience because so many performers stay behind closed doors. They come out, they do their show, and then they leave. And it's so sad. I love to be able to shake the hand of the person who's given me 2 hours or an hour of wonderful entertainment and memories to take home and share with all your friends. I have to tell you.
The reverse side is I get to meet people who say things that I get new material.
I teach.
So you tell your folks I'm watching them.
I will. I teach private kindergarten for a private school here in Austin, and I told them tonight, I said, I have to leave right on time. I have to get home so I can do my phone interview with Jeannie. I'm so excited. And they said, who's Jeannie? I said, you don't know who Jeanne Robertson is? So I pulled up YouTube videos with my fellow teachers and kindergartners today and let them watch, and even the 5-year-olds thought you were funny.
Well, that makes me feel good, and it makes me feel good that you can listen to it in the car with a 5-year-old in the car.
That's right.
And you can also show them the things. And but I have kids come up all the time, 9, 10, 11, they'll say, I have your stories memorized. I said, well, I just cut a new tape, and you don't have those stories because you've not heard them. And then I tell them that night. So
we look forward to it.
My tape is coming out, number 8 is coming out while I go to Austin. And then I go from there to Tyler, and it will arrive here at the house then. So I'm sorry, but I can tell the new stories there.
We look forward to hearing your new stories, and you know what?
You will love them.
We'll even take your old tapes and your books and all the other wonderful things you're going to bring to share with us.
Well, you're kind. Mainly I'm going to be on stage just so we're going to be laughing together, and I hope to see everybody there. Tell you, as we say, using an incorrect grammar word, bring all of your bestest friends.